Good morning, everybody. Hope you're all well. Thank you very much for joining me. It's 11 o'clock. Uh, Baking hot day outside. Hopefully, lots of you are sat in your gardens working from home technically today. Um, but with a bit of luck, you can hear me and the audio's working. We're all good. We're going to give everyone a minute or two just to join. We've still got people jumping on, but it's good to see you all again. It's been a while, so I do apologise. But today we've got a very exciting topic, talking about AI again, which, if you know me, you know is my favourite topic of all time. And today's focus is very much on getting started with AI. We're going to show you some fairly interesting and advanced kind of outcomes, but the whole point is to really allow you to get started. All right. So I've got AI, I've got Copilot, I'm using ChatGPT or Claude, but I don't really know what to do with it. How can we go from zero to some really cool outcomes that we can use in the workplace without a lot of knowledge? All right. So we've got a couple of people just stumbling in, so we'll give everyone a minute or two, and then hopefully we'll get underway. And I'm driving today, so you're going to see the screens popping around and things like that. So apologies for poor screen transition. Right. Okay. It's about 2 minutes past, so let's get underway then. Right. So, give me a second. Okay. Right. So, implementing AI. Where do I start? So today's agenda is to take those common tools that we've started to explore with. I know many of you are kind of on the Copilot journey, which is fantastic to see. Still probably the safest and most reliable place to be using data, company information, customer information. But we're going to cover all three of the big players today, because there's a number of you that are using ChatGPT and you're using a business version. There's a number of you that are using Anthropic's version of Claude, which is, again, a business-based version. It's encrypting. And we're going to talk about some of those. And obviously, we're going to cover Copilot. So we've got today voice agent demos. Again, if you've been on these before, you know I don't like doing lots of bullet points. So I tend to do videos and bits and pieces like that. So we're going to talk about voice agents, talk about creating graphics, a term called vibe coding, which is taking the world by storm a little bit. So maybe some of you have been vibe coding already. Then how we do that reliably, that will make a bit more sense later on. And then we're going to touch on Microsoft Copilot agents. And the idea here really is to say, well, how do we start with nothing? I've been given a tool. I've got Copilot. I've got ChatGPT, whatever it looks like. How do I go from having this tool, which I know is really, really powerful, but I don't know how to use it? Okay, how do we do something with it? So we're going to start with this concept of voice agents, probably the fastest growing innovation inside the telecommunication space. Okay, so many of us will have desks of people that receive calls and maybe triage things, and maybe have to understand or capture information from users. And in that scenario, a voice agent is a really great way of doing that. This is an AI agent that sits on top of your phone system and allows you to capture information from a particular customer. Okay, so bear with me for 2 seconds and we will just jump over here. I'm going to show you a little video that we've got created. So this is a voice agent in action.
Good morning, TMT Dental Practice. This is Amy speaking. How can I
Dentistry
help you
area.
today?
Hi there, yeah, I need to book an appointment for my toothache.
Hello, I'm sorry to hear you're experiencing toothache. I'll do my best to help you get seen as soon as possible. To get started, could I please take your full name and postcode?
Sure, it's Scott Whedon. My postcode is ABC123.
Okay, let me just find your details. Can you confirm the first line of your address for security?
Yeah, it's 48 Random Street.
Thank you for confirming. Now, to help me understand how urgently you need to be seen, could you tell me, are you in pain at the moment? And if so, would you describe it as mild, moderate, or severe?
It's pretty severe.
I'm really sorry to hear you're in severe pain. That sounds very uncomfortable. Let me get some more details to help prioritize your appointment. How long have you been experiencing this severe toothache?
So probably for the last 2 or 3 days, and I'm struggling to swallow a bit.
I'm concerned to hear you're having difficulty swallowing along with severe pain. This could indicate a more serious infection that may need urgent attention. Are you experiencing any
It's
swelling in
fine,
your face?
honestly. I just need to book an appointment.
I understand you just want to get an appointment booked, and I'll definitely help you with that. Given that you're in severe pain and having some difficulty swallowing, I want to make sure we prioritize this appropriately. Are you a new or existing patient with our practice?
I'm an existing patient.
Thank you for confirming. Since you're an existing patient with severe pain and difficulty swallowing, I'll make sure this gets prioritized appropriately. Do you have any preferred dates or times for your appointment? And would you be able to attend at short notice if we have a cancellation come up?
Yeah, just as soon as possible, please.
I completely understand you need to be seen as soon as possible. Given your severe pain and difficulty swallowing, I'll flag this as urgent for the dental team. Just a couple more quick questions. Do you have any medical conditions, medication allergies, or anything else you think the dentist should be aware of?
No, it's
And
all fine. I'm good.
Perfect, thank you. Let me just confirm what I have so far. You're Scott Whedon, existing patient at 48 Random Street, experiencing severe toothache for the last 2-3 days with some difficulty swallowing. You need the earliest possible appointment and can attend at short notice if there's a cancellation. I'm going to mark this as urgent and get it over to our dental team right away. They'll review your case and contact you as soon as possible to arrange either an emergency slot today or the earliest available appointment. Thank you. I've captured your details and marked this appropriately for the dental team. The practice will contact you to confirm the appointment or advise on the next available urgent slot.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome, Scott. Please keep an eye on your phone for our call. And if your symptoms get worse or you develop significant swelling, fever, or have more difficulty swallowing, don't hesitate to seek urgent medical attention. Take care and we'll be in touch soon.
So as you can see, really, really powerful. So there's a voice conversation being had there. I couldn't hear it, so I hope you could. But in essence, what we've got there is a voice assistant that plugs into our phone system. It sits on top of the phone system. So we don't need to, the particular example I've just given you works with any phone system. You create a extension within your platform, you route calls off to a new number. So when someone calls a particular extension on your phone system, that call gets routed away to the AI platform that receives the call. Now, what you do is you give it a bunch of rules and prompts and bits and pieces behind to tell it how you want it to behave. Maybe in that scenario, it's I want you to collect the caller's name, their address, any medical conditions they've got, find out if they're an existing patient or not. Don't give any particular medical advice, just your job is just to book the appointment, okay? So let's go into that in a little bit more detail and really understand how does that work behind the scenes. So put that back up for you. So in a nutshell, it goes through a bunch of stages that you can see here. We've got an inbound call that comes in. The voice agent answers it. Now, the voice agent is not a particularly clever AI. It's just there to sit on top of a much better AI solution or an understanding. And what you do within this particular platform we're talking about is you feed it information. So you feed it documents. So if you've got lots of inbound calls asking you about information that you've already got on your website, but people don't go calling through the website. Lots of people just pick up the phone and say, hey, what time are you open till? Hi, can I book a table? Can I do whatever? I've got a toothache. How do I make an appointment? So you've already got that information. Somewhere in your system, you will have documents and you'll have your opening times. It will be published somewhere. So what you do is you feed this agent the information that you want it to answer about. Don't try and create an agent that can do everything. You give it a very specific role. You can have lots of agents that do different things. You can have a voice system where one agent just asks you your problem or what it is you're calling for. And then when you give that an answer, it routes it through to another agent that's specifically trained on that particular part of your business. In our world, it might be that you want to speak to sales, you might want to speak to operations. So I might have 3 agents, one that asks me who I'm trying to get hold of, another agent that answers questions about sales, another one that answers questions about operations in our business, for example. So, but we can feed it PDF documents, Word documents, and more importantly than that, you can feed it access to your other cloud-based applications, things like Microsoft 365, HubSpot, Salesforce, your CRM tools. So what that means is when I call in now, and I call from my mobile, and you've got a CRM record for me and my mobile number, that agent can say, hi, Scott, thanks for calling. Fantastic. And it can start to capture whatever information that I want to give it. It then gives me that intelligent response. So based on the information it knows and the things it's looked up and what it's read, it can then start to answer some of those questions for me. And you can see in that demo that we just showed you that it's actually really good. Now, of course, many people will work out that's an AI agent, but actually, if you think about where we are today to where we're going, this is a great example of where it will be in 6 months' time, right? So the last piece of the puzzle really is that action or escalation. So once it understands your name and what you're calling for, it's able to determine what you want it to do. So it can go and raise a ticket, book us something in a calendar, send an email. It's got that link into 365, for example, so it can access your mailbox, it can access your calendar, it can book things in, it can book things in a shared calendar, or do anything else you want it to. Write some information back to Salesforce. All of this is possible with that voice agent. And at the bottom there, kind of what's the benefit to the business? So obviously one key thing is that it's 24/7. It doesn't stop working. It's all the time. It's on. It's available. It's able to provide information about your business and some of the products and services that you deliver. Consistent answers is very, very true because it's trained on a small set of data. If you train it on loads and loads of data, you'll get really spurious answers. But you give it a very small set of data, you tell it that it's not allowed to make anything up, and you tell it not to go and search the internet, so you'll look at this data, then you'll get a very consistent answer. And it'll also deal, you may have noticed in that video that as the AI agent was speaking, I can interrupt it, I can talk over it, right? And it will just be quiet, it'll stop, all right? And if I get irritated and frustrated because my toothache's really, really bad, it's not going to get grumpy with me, it's not going to hang up on me, it's just going to keep persisting with me until it gets to its goal. So fantastic. Much quicker response times, gone are the days of call waiting, all right, and having to sit on a call for 7 minutes. Maybe a suggested approach would be, look, hey, you're going to be in a call for 7 minutes. Do you want to have a chat with our AI agent? All right. Probably not today. My recommendation would not be to shoehorn necessarily everybody through an AI agent as soon as they pick the phone up. Possibly put them in that call waiting area and say, hey, look, if you want us to kind of get back to you quicker, you can use this AI agent. Don't pretend that it's a human being, I guess is what I'm saying. You will find lots of people will give it a go. And obviously, one of the great things about this is even if you're not using it to go and do that last step where it creates an action or does some sort of level of escalation, what it's completely able to do is actually triage, gather information, and speed things up for your existing staff so they can capture that information. So maybe you're going to put them through to a human, but you want to capture a load of information, understand the customer's problem, and then put it through to a human being who gets a little readout of what the information the AI agent captured. All right. So immediately you've got less time with people on phones, giving people time to think about the bigger problem, the bigger projects, the bigger pieces of work that need doing, and taking away the kind of lower end, mundane, annoying tasks that lots of people don't want to do. All right. So we've now got the concept of creating graphics. So you saw that screen there. So someone dared me to create this whole presentation using AI, all right? So I did. So how the voice agent works. That's not a screenshot, right? That's not something taken off of a sales brochure that I've pinched. It is created by AI. So how do we do that? So creating graphics, nice, easy way. Let's say you've got a ChatGPT account, you've got a Copilot account, any of these AI models can do this. So what I've said to it is, I'd like you to create me a picture, right? So, or in fact, I started with, here's my product and my service. I've got a voice agent that's able to respond to inbound calls. It learns information from a knowledge base. It can be uploaded through documents and connections into 365 and HubSpot. And ChatGPT in this scenario has come back and said, oh, that sounds great. Well, here's a big, much more detailed block of text that explains how that voice agent works, right? It's fleshed it out for me. What I can then say to it is, well, now, can you create me an infographic, which is a graphical representation of data or information that explains how this works? And it needs to go in a PowerPoint slide. And you can see in the prompt above it, it's covering off things like uploading documents and connected systems via API and the inbound caller and the voice agent does X, Y, and Z. And then it will go off and start to generate me a picture, an infographic based on that prompt above it. So you can see there that you now have this thinking thing and it tells you what it's thinking about. So I need to create an infographic for a PowerPoint slide. I'll likely go with a 16:9 aspect ratio. Clever stuff. PowerPoint is its size and dimensions effectively is 16:9. So it knows it's going to PowerPoint slide. It means I'm going to get the right size picture for the right kind of document that I'm working on. and it will go off and generate us that picture. Okay, so how the AI, so that is the picture I just showed you. Okay, and how professional does that look? So again, if I'd sat there and tried to create that in Microsoft Paint or Photoshop or Microsoft Word or whatever I'm going to attempt to do it, probably would have taken me a day or two, wouldn't it? That took, what, 35 seconds? And it's explained a really complicated technical issue, or not an issue, but a technical concept in a really nice, easy, clear pictorial way. So brilliant when it comes to explaining how things work, right? Infographics, for example. But of course, we're not limited to infographics. As I've shown in lots of other webinars, we can create pictures of people using laptops. We can create pictures of cats and dogs if you want to, whatever, okay? So, but in the world of business and in the world of work, we're not sending around photos of cats and dogs, right? We're trying to explain our products. We're trying to deliver a message of some sort. So you can see there very, very quickly how easy it is to create a very rich and engaging image of our products and how it works, just from a few lines of text. And of course, I could continue to work with that, right? So actually, you've got blue and green there, but our company corporate colors are purple, and we need, can you update that and make it more purple, or give it an example? So quite an easy thing. So let's talk about vibe coding. I'd love to know if any of you are vibe coding. All right, it's a craze that is taking over the world as we speak. Lots of you that I have spoken to are using a tool called Claude, okay, for this vibe coding element, and it's creating you prototypes, it's creating you documents, it's creating you PowerPoint slides, and it's allowing you to develop platforms and tools that that you can use within the workplace. But there are some challenges, and we'll come on to that in a second. So what is vibe coding? This is Claude, if you've never used Claude. So I'm going to give Claude a prompt. I'm going to say, I need you to create a rich AI Claude prompt that allows me to upload a spreadsheet and have Claude build me a rich dashboard web page that renders the information in an aesthetically pleasing way, highlighting key metrics and trends. So what I'm going to try and do here is say, look, I've got this really ugly looking spreadsheet. It's got loads of data in it, but I don't want to sit there in Excel creating charts and graphs and measuring stuff and adding columns up. I just want you to create me a really pretty looking report with all of my sales data in it. So, but I don't know where to start with that. And this is the great thing about AI. If I don't know where to start, how do I go and build a web page that renders all of my data? If you don't know, ask. Right? Just ask the AI agent, how do I go and do that? And that's exactly what that prompt's saying. It's saying, I need you to go and create a prompt, not create the dashboard, not create the information. At this point, it's give me the right type of prompt that I can give back to you to give me this outcome. The outcome is a rich dashboard web page that renders information in a pleasing way, highlighting metrics and trends. And on the right side in Claude there now, it's saying, look, this is the prompt you want to use. I've attached a spreadsheet. Your job is to analyze it thoroughly and produce a self-contained dashboard HTML file. So I take that prompt, I paste it into the prompt. I also give it a spreadsheet of data. All right, the data that I want you to grab. And you can see there we've got 10,000 lines in that spreadsheet of sales information, of locations and revenue and profit and things like that. So I'm going to send all of that off to Claude. Hopefully some of you right now are raising an eyebrow, and we'll come on to that in a minute. So it now has its understanding. It's got that prompt on the right-hand side that says, this is exactly what I want you to do. We didn't write that prompt. We asked Claude to write that prompt. And an example of all the data that we want it to go off and do. And the great thing about Claude is it does tell you down the side there what it's doing. It's using a tool to read that spreadsheet. It's exploring the orders now. It's understanding the data, what it's trying to tell us and how it works. And then it's continuing to run that command and execute a script now to go and build us a particular page. Right. We'll let that continue for a second or two. So now it's building as a full dashboard with a design direction, deep slate, blue background with a warm amber accent, invoking a physical store, and continues on, and it continues on, and it continues on. So down the side there, just take a minute to kind of look at some of the things that prompt's talking about. It needs to be self-contained, all data is hard-coded, we want it to be responsive, I want it to work on a laptop as well as a mobile phone, for example. It should be accessible. These are all things that I wouldn't have typed if I was writing this prompt myself. I wouldn't have thought to go and do these things, okay? talking about the color, the spacing, the type, effectively where the charts are going to come from. It needs to have clear accesses. It needs to be labeled well, so on and so on. Okay. So what we can hopefully are going to end up with any second is a example of what it's going to produce. I'm going to give it a minute. I'll sing you a song whilst it's loading. So there you go. It's created me on the right-hand side now a kind of a dashboard, right? Now, I don't like that dashboard. It looks pretty ugly. It's got a dark background. Maybe that isn't what I want. But what is really impressive is it's got graphs, it's got charts, it's got metrics, it's worked out margin, for example, from our data, which we didn't necessarily give it. So actually, brilliant, right? So you've chucked it a load of data, and it's given me an interactive dashboard that I can use. So if you're in the Power BI world and you're looking at that, this is cool stuff, right? So, but I'm not very happy with it. I don't like the look of it. So this is where vibe coding comes in. I just start talking back to it. So I'm going to say, look, I don't like that black background. Please use a light background and clear fonts. And now it's going to start to go away and modify that file or modify that dashboard for us. So on the right-hand side, we've got this black screen. And as it makes these changes, it will just start to live update on the right-hand side. So you can see immediately it's changed it to white, it's flicked it back to black. Maybe it's thinking about something else now, then it will flick it back and it will change the fonts and all the other bits and pieces that I've asked. And I can continually work with this and constantly evolve it until I'm happy with what it looks like. I can say, look, actually, do you know what? I don't want total revenue on the top line. I'm more interested in profit. Get rid of the total revenue box, put profit in there. The margin, that's not interesting, or the margin needs to be bigger. Can we make that, take up a quarter of the page? The graphs need to be red and green. Whatever I like, just keep talking to it. So what you're doing here is you are effectively building and developing an application. But you don't need to know software languages. You don't need to know how to code. You already have all the tools you need, right? You just use natural language and effectively, hence the term vibe, you're giving it the vibe of what you're trying to achieve. Okay, you're trying to say, look, this is what I'm looking for. Here's the outcome. This is what I'm expecting. And the better you are at describing the outcome and what you want it to look like, the better the result will be. Now, another way of doing that, to say, hey, I want it to look better, is to go and find an existing dashboard. So maybe you've got some reports you already use, or you haven't got a clue, in which case go online and find a picture of a sample dashboard. I'll probably get in worlds of trouble for recommending you go online and steal pictures, but ultimately, perhaps use a report you've already got, or something you want to tweak, you want to work on, but Power BI team are busy for the next 9 months. Right, well, maybe this is an option here. So this scenario, I'm going to give it a picture of a dashboard that I like the look of and say, can you make it now look like this dashboard? So again, no coding required here. I'm just asking it to kind of look at its current design, understand the design of the picture I've just given you. So it says I have a clear picture of reference design. It's clean, minimal SAS dashboard with white, light grey palette, thin borders, dark sidebar, large KPI numbers, etc., right? And what it's going to then try to do is say, well, I've got here, how do I get from here to here? And how do we end up with a better looking result? So hopefully, again, after a minute or two, that is going to throw us up a new dashboard. There you go. Okay, much better looking dashboard. Much happier with that. That looks not a million miles away from the picture that we gave it. So similar sorts of colors, charts, that total revenue numbers there, profits there. So I'm much happier. And the key thing about this is it becomes interactive, right? I didn't ask for it. I could have done, but it's put that in there for me because I can export this data. I can print this report to a PDF. There are slices and filters down the side. And of course, I could work with it and say, actually, keep the report, but give me the ability to filter on all the furniture, for example, that we sold, or the office supplies, as you can see on the left-hand side there. And obviously in the report, there's a bunch of regions or territories and bits and pieces like that, and market segments. So again, these filters are just being pulled out, and that's an example of the AI understanding the data that you've given it and surfacing those metrics. If you don't want them, tell it to remove it. If you want some other kind of metric, tell it to put it in there. You're going to end up with a really rich, usable dashboard. So, sounds great, right? There are two caveats to this. The problem you've got with vibe coding is it's very much like a human. AIs are very much like humans. And I've said this before, but I'll say it again. If you ask me a question as a human being at 9 a.m. in the morning, I will give you an answer. If you ask me that question again at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I'll give you the same answer, but I definitely won't use the same words. Okay. The chances of me reciting exactly what I said 6 hours ago is not going to happen. All right. You'll get the gist. You'll get roughly the same thing from me, but it won't be exact. And vibe coding is no different to that. If I did that whole experiment that we just saw then, and I did it again, what I'd end up with is a very different looking dashboard. It wouldn't have necessary total margin at the top. Generally, it'd be roughly the same, but it wouldn't be exactly the same. So the issue I've got is that if I did a dashboard on our sales performance for May, for example, I'd get a lovely looking dashboard. If I tried to then run that exercise again in June, I would get the information out, but the dashboard wouldn't look the same. Now, the problem is I presented that information to my board, let's say. They're all expecting that total revenue button to be, or box to be at the top. Now it's not, it's down here on the right-hand side. Not the end of the world, but enough to irritate people. So how do we get something that reliably emits the same looking thing over and over and over again? So that's the first challenge. The second challenge is that I've just taken data, uploaded that data into Claude, and broken every GDPR rule in the book, because Claude servers are in the US. So if I'm uploading data that contains customer information or any sort of sensitive information, then I've actually just got myself in a lot of trouble. So we can't upload customer data. So what we could do is upload a sample of that data, as long as it hasn't got anything sensitive in it, no PII, all that kind of stuff, and it's in line with your company policy. So if you're doing this, maybe your customer's the MOD, for example, well, this is not even an option to you to upload that customer data. If you're working with lots of American organizations, maybe it's not so much of a problem. So it will be a case-by-case basis. But how do we fix these two problems? Okay, we can't just keep uploading customer data. We need a way to generate a report and upload the data locally. So what we're going to do this time is we're going to say, now we've got our report, we're happy with the way it looks, but I'm going to ask it now to, can you now give me a downloadable version of this page? It should be a single HTML JavaScript page that allows me to upload a different data set from an Excel file and have the site render the information in the page. Now, I appreciate it sounds a little bit complicated. Let me talk you through what that means. What I'm saying is, rather than me coming to you, Claude, and giving you a load of data, can you create me a template, a form, something, a dashboard that I can download and just run on my local computer? But the important thing is, when I open it on my local computer, I want you to give me the option to just drag and drop some data in. I want to give you a spreadsheet. By doing it that way, what we end up with is a scenario where the data that I'm using, the spreadsheet, never leaves my computer. I'm not uploading it to ChatGPT, to Claude, to anything like that. If you're using Copilot, this is not so much of an issue. Copilot is getting there with this kind of technology. It is coming. It's released some very recent updates which can do similar things, less of a problem. But the idea here is that I'm going to take my spreadsheet that I've got stored in my documents folder, and I'm going to drop it onto this web page, and it's going to generate me a consistent looking report. This means that my data does not leave my PC. I do not breach GDPR. So what does that look like when we do this properly? So it's going to go away. It's creating that. It's going to spit me out a file in a minute, and it's a HTML file. That's the technology that we use behind web pages. So it's going to be a single HTML web page. It's going to be a single web page that I'm going to be able to download in a second, and with a bit of luck, render. So off it goes. It's done that for me. All right. So if we just read through that, it even tells me how to use it. So download the file and open it in any browser. Go and grab a file, drag and drop it over, put it into your environment. Right. So we click download there. In my downloads, I'm going to get a little HTML file. I'm just going to open that file up, and this is the web page. This is now not running in the cloud. This is not running in AI. This is just running on your PC. I'm going to click on upload a file, and I'm going to grab my spreadsheet. It's going to read that spreadsheet and say, hey, there's some multiple sheets in the sheet, which in the spreadsheet, what do you want? And bang, there we go. It's now taken that spreadsheet, uploaded it, and rendered it in this document. You can see the number there is $2.3 million worth of sales in the sample data. But the important thing now is I can go back and I can go and grab another document with different information in it. It needs to be structured the same columns, things like that. But actually, maybe this is now June's version of that spreadsheet. Bang, exactly the same again. Because now we've got that level of consistency, because I'm not asking the AI to reinvent this thing every time I ask it for data. I've asked it to build me a template. And if we go back to the way that humans work, again, if somebody said to me, can you do me a document that explains something? I'll write a document out at 9 in the morning and it'll look a certain way. If you ask me to do that again at 3 in the afternoon, I'll write a document out, it'll look a certain way. If you give me a form or a template and say, I need you to fill that in, it will look exactly the same at 9 a.m. and 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So what you're really doing here is you're not vibe coding the dashboard, you're vibe coding a tool, a template, a form that the AI is going to fill in with the information that you give it. And this means you get that consistency, that same result, all the bits and pieces. And this applies not just to web pages, to Word documents, to all the things that you want to go off and create. So hopefully that's really, really useful to you. Let's talk about Microsoft Copilot slightly. We've got lots and lots of you that are now on that Copilot journey. You are starting to use Copilot, you're asking it questions, it's got visibility of some of the data that you have inside your Microsoft 365 environment. And the biggest conversation I have with people is like, but it looks at everything, right? How do I restrict what it can see? How do I get it to be less generic, right? I ask it a question, it tells me about something 2 weeks ago. And I guess the point at the moment is we're using Copilot, and without a little bit of additional work, it's kind of a jack of all trades, master of none. And Copilot agents exist to solve that problem for you. So let's have a little look at this. So this is Microsoft Teams. If you don't use Copilot already, you already have Copilot. You may, as long as you've got a Microsoft account, you have a version of Copilot, okay? There is a free version of Copilot and a paid-for version of Copilot. If you have a Microsoft 365 account, then you have the free version of Copilot. If you pay for the additional upgrade for Microsoft 365 Copilot as a license, then that agent can see all of the documents inside your Microsoft environment. So it can look at your OneDrive, your calendar, your emails, your shared areas, SharePoint, team sites, everything. And that allows you to ask it questions like, what does my diary look like today? All right, can you book me this appointment? When's the next time someone's available for me to have a meeting with them? So extremely powerful on its own as a personal assistant, okay, getting me organized, asking questions around things that are going on inside the business. If you don't have that paid for license, then your version of Copilot will search up information on the internet, but will not be able to see the data that you have inside your 365 environment. Now, it's still very useful because, as I showed you earlier, in terms of asking it to create new prompts that do better things, it will do that all day long. But the real power of Copilot comes when you start to plug it in. One key thing to say is that everything you put inside Copilot is encrypted, and as long as your tenancy is in the UK, which it should be because you're a largely UK organisations on the call, then your data is residing in the UK. Nothing gets sent to an American server like Claude or ChatGPT. Everything's sitting in the UK. It's encrypted, it's secure. You can put as much customer data in there as you like. It doesn't breach outside of your own 365 tenancy. So that's a huge differentiator against some of the other platforms. So how do we get into Copilot from Microsoft Teams? So look at the Microsoft Teams screen there. It's that icon right there. Okay, so click on that icon inside Teams and you will see that you'll see Microsoft 365 Copilot. I'm just going to go back a step because if you look in the middle of the screen at the top there, there's a little toggle button that says Work and Web. It's a great way of determining what license you've got. If that button, that toggle is there, if it says Work and Web at the top, then you have a paid-for version of the license, right? And you can toggle between just looking for data online and looking for data inside your organization when you select work. If that isn't there, then you don't have a paid-for license, and you'll only be able to use the web-based version of Copilot. So we're going to click on that button there. That's going to bring us to the Microsoft 365 Copilot environment. And the thing we're going to focus on is this button here that says Create an Agent. All right, so we're going to click on Create Agent, and we're going to get this screen here. So this is all about creating or giving a prompt and basically spinning up a member of staff to do something for me. All right, spinning up my sales reporter, spinning up something, some role within the business that I want to do. So I've put a prompt in there again. Surprise, surprise. I've asked another AI agent to build me a prompt. But this AI agent is going to look at that spreadsheet of data that we had earlier, and it's going to answer questions on it. So I can ask it like, what's the revenue? What did we do yesterday? How much, what region is underperforming at the moment? I'm making this up. But you can see it's giving me a nice long prompt, which again, I haven't typed. I've just gone and stolen from or vibed, should we say, from another AI tool. We paste it in, and what it does is it creates this agent. So it's come up with a name for it called Sales Pulse. But the bit I want to focus on with an agent is the knowledge. What this is doing is saying, well, okay, rather than me understanding everything about your business, which I could do, I could look at SharePoint, Teams, Outlook, what do you want me to have a look at? Now, I might decide, well, actually, I don't want you looking at data online because that's going to skew your results. And I only want you to use data from a specific source. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to attach a cloud file. What that allows me to do is go and find a document or a file somewhere within our 365 environment and use that as the grounding. So rather than me uploading every month a spreadsheet into this system, it's just going to always look at that document that's in the cloud. So I don't need to upload that data anymore. We also get this option down the bottom for suggested prompts. If there's things I'm always going to ask it, like what's, if I know that every month I'm going to ask it, what was last month's revenue or margin or profit or whatever it is we're looking for, then I could just record that as a prompt and keep it there. So I've just got to click a button. So we're going to go up to the top, click create. All right, and we're going to go to that agent and let's give it a little go. So remember now, it's not looking at anything other than the data inside a spreadsheet stored inside my OneDrive in this scenario, or inside a Teams site, or inside SharePoint, whatever that looks like. I'm now going to give it a prompt. I'm going to say, hey, how are sales performing overall? Now it's going to go away. It's going to have a little think about that. And the key thing here is, remember, I'm not uploading that document. It might be that 10 of my staff have been updating that document in the background. All right? It might be that at the end of the month, when we put our board pack together, let's say, the heads of department and managers all fill some information into a collaborative central spreadsheet that this AI agent looks at. And at that point, I don't need to worry about getting the data together. It's always going to look at the same place. Straight away, bang. Okay, so we've now got an executive summary. We've got some detailed performance breakdown showing top numbers, performance highlights, areas of concern. So furniture's looking bad, etc. Regional information, category performance. All of that information is coming from that single spreadsheet that we showed you earlier. So obviously I can carry this on. I can then say, right, actually, I'll ask you another question, right? Which customers are most valuable? Who should we be working really, really closely with? Who's really bought into our business? Who's buying lots of stock from us? Maybe we can do something more with them. Or maybe the other way around. We've got customers that aren't buying enough. Maybe we need to research and speak to those people, find out what it is we're not doing right. How can we encourage things? So this becomes an agent that specifically answers questions around areas of my business that I've trained it to go and look at. So this is extremely powerful. Okay. One thing I would say is I use this regularly now. I've got lots of agents that do lots of things across TaylorMade. I don't know what I should say, so I'll probably get in trouble actually, but typically I'll get in my car in the morning and my phone will be connected to my hands-free on my car, of course. And as I'm driving in, there is an app for Microsoft 365 Copilot, so I'll install that on your phone. And then you can put it into voice mode and you can just have a conversation with it. So similar to what we saw earlier with that kind of voice conversation going backwards and forwards, it allows me to drive in the morning and say, right, okay, well, what happened last week? What were the call stats for X, Y, and Z? What urgent emails do I need to deal with? And then it will come back and say, look, you've had an email from this person and this person and this person. This person said, hey, what's going on with X, Y, and Z? And whilst I'm driving along, I say, oh yeah, can you send me an email back to them and tell them that I'll jump on it in the morning? And it will send an email out. So I've got this voice assistant, this PA that's working with me all the time, which is fantastic. So you can see that across AI, there are lots and lots of ways, and many, many people will land and, they've got Claude, they've got ChatGPT, they've got Copilot, and they're looking at a blank piece of paper and saying, right, well, where do we even get started, right? And actually, when you boil it down, there are a few fundamental things that we want to do. We want to remove repetitive things from within the business. In 2 or 3 years ago, for me to get the level of answers that I've just got from 2 minutes worth of work would have taken a bunch of managers, some members of staff, ages in Excel to compile, somebody to write that information up for me so that I can walk into a board meeting and deliver that information. That is gone. Okay, now we're in a position where we can build that very, very quickly. And those people are not bogged down by playing around with spreadsheets, right? They're thinking about the business. They're thinking, they're innovating within their teams, right? They're driving success. They're focusing in on things that are not distracting their time away. All right, so it's very much about that boring, mundane stuff that that just consumes time. Look at your business processes. Look at the things that you know are repetitive, because those areas are key targets for AI to come in and disrupt slightly. Okay, speed up your workforce, become more efficient. You might build an agent that says, hey, look, we always send out reports to our customers. I'm going to give you a report. I want you to critique it. I want you to review it. Does it meet all of these objectives? We need to be clear and concise. Does it, is all the pricing in that in UK pounds? Is X, Y, and Z? Whatever you need to. So it's like a review bot. So we've given an example of a PA answer or a sales admin or sales manager or whatever that's able to answer questions about sales performance. There's another one there about document review, all right? Quality control before a document is released down. Okay, feed it back to the person that wrote it and say, look, you can improve on this, you can improve on that. Expand that, extrapolate that. Think about where that sits within your business and what you can do with it. And I'm hoping that that will greatly improve your experiences with AI. So we've ripped through that, but I am going to point out it's the hottest day of the year. I'm in a room with no aircon and I'm starting to sweat. So I'm kind of a little bit happy that we've done this quite quickly. So where to learn some more? So as always, Microsoft website, it's got loads of training that you can go and visit, and even some stuff on the Copilot side of that conversation. We also continually do blogs and resources. We make paperwork available and brochures available, as well as doing these webinars. So hopefully you keep up with the webinars. We try to do sort of short, sharp video content just so that it's a bit easier to follow. And if you've got anything there where you're using AI, you're struggling slightly, I'd love to hear from you, understand what it is you're struggling with, and perhaps I can come and do another webinar and explain how to get over that. And of course, the last one, if you don't really know, you don't want to go searching the web, probably the best thing to ask around AI is the AI itself. So ask Copilot how you do something, right? I need to create a document review agent. How do I do that? And it will give you a step-by-step guide on what to do. Click over here, go and create that. Put this, maybe try this prompt out, for example, X, Y, and Z. So work with Copilot. It's there. It's an assistant, right? Ask it. You can do that, that prompting again without the license. You can't build agents without a Copilot license, but ChatGPT, Claude, these things all have agents as well. You just need to be very careful around data security if you are going to go down those roads. Okay. So, good news. You're all going to get a bit of time back. I'm sure you're all working at home today because it's so hot. So, so I'll let you go and have your lunch a little bit early. I'm going to stop screen sharing, and then if there are any questions, I welcome anything that anybody wants to ask me. So, in fact, there's already a few questions there. Good news. So, let's have a look. So, did I miss anything on the business information security and appropriate plans? So, I think what you're asking me there, correct me if I'm wrong, but is about the security element of AI, right? Again, that comes back to, if you're using Copilot, you're pretty much largely okay. If you're using ChatGPT, using Claude, anything like that, then you do need to start studying that. You need to understand how secure is that data when I start putting it into American servers, all right? Some of your customers might be fine with it. It is a completely organization dependent thing. So, but in terms of other bits and pieces, if you are directing that question more at like, can AI deal with business information and security and understand that stuff? Absolutely. It can read documents, it can read contracts, it can read all sorts of things, it can give advice. So hopefully that answers that. But allowing users to run JavaScript would be a security risk. I agree, 100%. Yep. I'm absolutely not going to argue that one whatsoever. Certainly stuff that has been written by a random person running on a machine. So if you do build that tool, I would suggest absolutely sit and talk to IT about it. It's very easy to debug a JavaScript file and understand whether there is a security risk within it. You can even ask Copilot or ask another AI agent to review it. But it is fair to say that running JavaScript on your local machine is a risk. So speak to your IT department. Maybe they'll be able to assess that, host that on a server for you somewhere, and then all you've got to do is go and visit that URL internally and then dump your data into it. So can we get Copilot to see files and folders, SharePoint, rather than just work in app? I think I've sort of answered that with the agent bit, I think is where you're headed with that. So rather than just seeing like everything, I think is what you're asking me, how do we get it to just look at that folder? So again, that's that agent piece. So you've got Copilot. When you go and open up Copilot, it looks at everything you've got access to. When you build an agent specifically, it looks at specific sets of data. So to give you an example, I have an ISO audit agent that looks at our business management system or quality management systems, whatever we call it. Inside there are our policies and our documents and our processes, which is very handy for me when I want to go, well, what is this policy? What should be happening within the business when this thing happens? So its context, its knowledge base is pointed at one folder inside SharePoint. It doesn't look at anything else. The key to making that successful is archiving out old policies, right? Don't keep creating a V1 document and then next to it saving a version 2 document, because if you're looking in the same folder and there's 6 versions of your goods in process, then how does it know which one it needs to work with? So make sure you archive off and you remove the data that isn't necessary, put that in an archive somewhere else in a different folder, and keep your most current stuff in one place, point your agent at that, and you'll get a much better result. So which version of Copilot gives you the voice prompts? So they all do. So if you download the app, you've got a personal version, as with everything in Microsoft, you've got a personal version of the app and you've got a Copilot business version of the app. So go and search the App Store. What you'll find is next to the prompt at the bottom inside the app, there's a little kind of voice, wave, sound wave icon, should we call it. If you click on that, it will turn into a voice chat and you can just have a conversation with it, okay? Can you save certain prompts in a prompt library so that other team members can use them in our organization? Yeah, again, the easiest way to do that is probably to do it in an agent. So do you remember at the bottom of that agent, it said suggested prompts? So you can grab the information, put your prompts in there that you want those teams to answer regularly, store it in an agent. You can share an agent with anybody else that's got a Copilot license. So I can build an agent, let's take my ISO agent again, and perhaps I want to share it with Lee, our COO, so that he can ask questions of it as well. I just send him a sharing link. He then gains access to the agent. When he logs into Teams and he goes to Copilot, the agent will be listed in the top left. You can click on that agent and all of the prompts that have been set up will be listed underneath it for them, okay? Will the AI agent join unions? I'm thinking that is probably likely at some point in the near future, right? There's a big thing at the moment around a term called workspace of agents, where agents hand off work between themselves. So one orchestrates a piece of work and researches it, then hands it over to another agent that does the work, understands what needs to be done, builds a spreadsheet, whatever, and then it hands it over to another agent that generates a report, let's say. So this autonomous nature, as it's being called, is rapidly evolving. If you're really interested, Venezuela have just opened up bank accounts for AI agents that they can sign up for their own bank accounts. So very crazy stuff. But there you go. What if you have a Copilot plan that's hosted in the US? Well, again, it comes back to what data you've got stored in it. You know, if you've got UK personal information stored in your Copilot, or when we say Copilot plan, it's not so much the plan, it's the tenancy, it's the 365 tenancy underneath that. You can see that from the admin settings. It will tell you the region that the tenancy exists in. If it says US there, then you need to be very, very conscious of the fact that if you're putting UK personal data in your 365 tenancy, you could well be in breach. So you need to check that. Obviously, you can waive that with your customers as long as they're aware of it. You can also use tools to migrate your tenancy from the US back to the UK if that's important to you. But yeah, sadly that doesn't. If your data's in there and it's in the US, it's in the US, and you're in trouble. Okay, is sharing agents available across Copilot plans? Yes. So you need to have a paid-for Copilot plan, not a free, not the no license, effectively the free version of Copilot. So as long as you've got a paid-for version, yeah, absolutely. It needs to. If you share it with someone, they need to have a Copilot license as well. So it'll only work for that. So what we're seeing typically is senior management teams and management teams tend to be the people that Copilot is rolling out to the most at the moment. Just while people are finding their feet with it and starting to understand how they can use it. And then obviously if you find a really good business case and you can see that Copilot can reduce a huge amount of time within a workforce or within a team, if you can extract and remove 20 days of work a month, then, or let's say it's 30 days of work a month, then you've got a whole salary that you've just saved. So it might well be worth spending the money on Copilot. So should agents be shared to team members via shared folder or via Teams channel? So typically, it's done by a sharing link normally. They can exist within channels and bits and pieces as well. But typically, if you go into the agent and you click on share and you share it with somebody, that person will receive a link to it. And the truth is, when they open up Copilot, that should appear in the list anyway. So they'll kind of get it by default. There's a button underneath that says all agents. So with most things Microsoft, the more you use an agent, the higher up that list it appears. So if they can't find your agent straight away, they might need to click on all agents and have a look for it. But ultimately, it's listed, on the side there. So, right, where does it say the tenancy? Good question. Off the top of my head, I have no idea. I can't remember. But Keith, if you reach out to us, I'll send you a screenshot. All right, and I'll show you. In fact, what you could do is open up Copilot and go and ask it. All right, and it will tell you, say, hey, in my 365 admin tenancy, where can I find out where my tenancy is stored? If not, give us a call and we'll have a look. Right, any more questions? Excellent. Brilliant. One more. So does Copilot automatically get access to emails? Yep. So it gets access to all the emails that you have access to as a person. All right. So when I use Copilot, I have access to my emails. I have access to my calendar. I have access to all the files that I have access to. So everything in my OneDrive, plus all the things that people have shared with me, or the things that are in team sites. And that's what my out-of-the-box Copilot can see. It can't see anybody else's mailbox. I can't ask it questions about anybody else's. So let's take my CEO, for example. If he uses Copilot, he sees his mailbox, but he can't see my mailbox. He can't see the information that I'm doing, not unless I share it with him. Or if I give him access to my mailbox, so he has permission to view my mailbox, then yes, he can see my mailbox. So it all comes down to permissioning and structuring that permission correctly. And this is why it's so important that before you go kind of too gung-ho with Copilot, you take that kind of gradual steps approach. You look at your data, you look how much data you're archiving. Have you just got loads of rubbish inside there? I mean that nicely, but have you got lots of noise inside your shared area, for example? If you have, if it's hard for you to find that data, then Copilot's going to struggle to find that data as well, right? It's going to struggle to give you a good result. If you've got 12 versions of a document over the last 3 years, then it's just going to guess to some degree. If there's one solid source of truth, then you're going to constantly get a reliable output. So thank you, Keith. Yeah, great point. So, so the best way to say this is Copilot has access to the same things as the users who it's licensed for. Yeah, 100%. Totally agree. Can you give it access to local files? No, not currently. All your data needs to be inside. Now, there is some discussion about tools and services that can be installed on premise and scan files that are on people's PCs and bits and pieces like that. Some AI agents can do that. ChatGPT, Claude can do that. But you're running tools and services on your laptops, sending that data back again to the US, that is a problem, unless you're a US company with US customers, obviously. Right? But you can really, the answer to that is ultimately you need to get that data up into 365 to make maximum use of it. Okay, any more? Right, okay, look, well, thank you very much. Hopefully that's been really, really useful. I will hang around for a few minutes, so if anybody has got any more questions, you can fire away. But thank you very much for joining me. I hope you go and enjoy the sun. We will do this again, hopefully in the next few weeks. We will cover off a few more bits and pieces. Yeah, hopefully you'll join us again, all right? So if you're all done, thank you very much. Speak to you all soon. I will hang around. There's still more questions coming in, so I will answer those. The different versions, sorry, the different Copilot versions in the paid license. Yes, it's only really one license. So you get Copilot and then you get Copilot agents. All right. So there is only kind of a Copilot license. There's something called Work IQ, which is about agents handing off work to other agents. And that's got a different type of billing mechanism behind it, where you get billed effectively per request. So if you say, hey, go and create me a spreadsheet, you get billed for creating that spreadsheet. So slightly different pricing model. But in the Copilot land, there's only there's a Microsoft 365 Copilot license. There are different spin-offs of it, in fairness. There is Copilot for sales and Copilot for operations and all these bits of security. And ultimately, they come at a slightly different cost. I'm not aware of anybody that's using them. So if you are using those, then great. I can have a chat with you about it. But they're ultimately the same thing. They're just models that have been trained to behave in a certain way, be overly friendly in the customer service world, be ultra critical in the security world, for example, and they are given tools that they can plug into. So the sales one plugs into Microsoft Dynamics very natively, but also can speak to things like Salesforce and X, Y, and Z and plug into CRM. So, but most people at the moment, 99% of people are just using Copilot, Microsoft 365 Copilot, and that's focused on your data inside 365 and being a bit of a PA. But the agents element comes as part of that license. Right, great. What's the cost of the business in tokens if everybody's building their own agents? How's this measured? So if you're building agents, inside Copilot, it's a flat cost. There's no cost to per token. So when we talk about per token, for people that might not understand what we're saying there, in ChatGPT world and in Claude world, you pay, if you don't have a subscription as a business, you might just say, look, we don't want to pay £30, £40 a month per user. We're just going to pay for every request. It's almost a pay-as-you-go model. And what happens there is the longer the prompt gets broken down into little chunks that are called tokens. So the longer the prompt or the more complex the prompt is, the more tokens are required to consume the task, right? And then it charges you for how much it outputs as well. So that's this sort of per token modeling. Copilot doesn't really work like that. It's just a flat fee. It's part of the Microsoft thing. It's one of the big advantages of Copilot. You're not paying, per token. The big shift. So when you create an agent, as I just showed you today, there is no cost for no additional cost, for asking that agent questions. It's only if you go to this Work IQ, which is the new version of Copilot, where things are integrating together and multiple agents are asking multiple agents. If you haven't covered that, happy to do a session on that if you think that'd be useful. But that's where you pay per token, and over that, effectively per token over there. ChatGPT, Claude, again, both have subscriptions there. But if you do that at scale, you'll probably find that very quickly you'll run out. So everyone gets a certain amount of credits, a certain amount of tokens. They'll quickly run out of tokens, and then you'll have to buy more credit with those tools to allow those people to continue to do that vibe coding. So bear that in mind. The cost can scale, which is why it's really good. That second example I gave you of using it to build a template and then bringing that locally and running that locally internally. Security, obviously, bear that in mind, as it's quite rightly pointed out. But once you've got that internally, then when you're dropping data and you're not paying anything, right? There's no AI involved in that. It's just reporting on stuff. So. Is there a limit on the number of queries in chat or agent for the paid version? I think in fairness, there isn't a limit on the number of chats you can have. It's unlimited. You can keep going. Again, in the agent, unlimited. There is a limit to the length of the reply that it will create, and there's a limit to the length of the input that you can put into it. And that's known as a context length. So the agent can only deal with X amount of context. So if we'd had this conversation a year ago, you probably could have got away with putting a paragraph in. Nowadays, you could probably upload a book, in all honesty. So, and that curve of context is so exponential that you're unlikely to hit it, in all honesty. So you might do, but it's growing faster than we are, in all honesty. What's your view on using a local LLM to deal with local files, or should we just use Copilot and upload? It depends how much skill you've got. I mean, in all honesty, it's going to cost you an awful lot of money to get the graphics compute, unless you've already got it, obviously, to run that. The level of graphics card that you need to run a modern frontier model is quite substantial. You're probably talking 100 grand, right, to buy enough GPUs to get some sort of useful inference out of it. The Copilot is obviously significantly cheaper than that. You're putting your data in the cloud. It presents challenges for some organizations. I've got a feeling you deal with big, large CAD files. That's a struggle. Now, there are other tools and technologies that you can bring in that scenario. So, for example, there is a platform that we're putting in for a number of our customers at the moment that effectively allows you to work on a file locally with the speed and reaction of local files, but trickles that data up into the cloud and creates a second copy of it in the cloud. And then your AI agent can read the stuff in the cloud, but you're working on the live local document. And therefore, you're getting the best of both worlds without having to build your own LLM internally. So you can absolutely do that. Happy to have a chat with you. As you can imagine, as a CTO, that's the sort of stuff I do at weekends, sadly. But building that out is not a small feat. You generally have to go and get open source models, Chinese models, things like Qwen, and run them on a machine that's got access to lots of graphics cards to be able to get the scale of creativity. We have what we call parameters at the moment. Realistically, without spending hundreds of thousands of pounds, you might get a good model which is sort of 32 billion parameters. To give you some idea, you're looking to get Copilot level response, you need about 500 billion. So we're a long way off without getting enough compute behind it. So it's totally doable, but it's a task. Right, any more? Right. 32 long survivors. Very impressed by all of you. 32 AI fans, clearly. So, right, okay. I think we're going to call it a day. Thank you very much indeed for your time and jumping on and joining me. Hopefully that was useful. If there's anything that we've shown you today you want me to go over again, just reach out. Voice agents, things like that. If you're interested in that, please do reach out. As I say, we're a technology company, so AI isn't just for IT. This is a telecommunications, cyber, IT, and data innovation, business process, all that sort of stuff. So please get in touch. Right? Lovely. Thank you very much then, everybody. Take care. Enjoy the hot weather. See you later.